Hi, everyone. Welcome to this evening's session of Project Hope. We're so excited for those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live or those who will be watching this session after it's posted to the Crossroads of Western Iowa website. So welcome. We're so happy to have our speaker, Lonnie Moore, with us this evening. Hello, Lonnie.
Hey there.
Hello, and we are tonight's session is going to be public victory habits 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're very excited for the learnings that we will be made aware of this evening. So with that, Lonnie, I'll go ahead and introduce you.
Awesome.
Hey, Lonnie's career as a classroom teacher, author, and inspirational speaker has prepared him to help clients find solutions that result in long-term change. Lonnie is passionate about teaching the principles of effectiveness to individuals and to organizations. Lonnie joined Franklin Covey in the year 2000, where he has contributed to the company in areas of sales, marketing, content development, and organizational consulting. Lonnie's experience working with groups of diverse backgrounds has given him a unique and clear vision of what it takes to create impactful programs. His dynamic and entertaining style makes his presentations fun, challenging, and thought-provoking, so we're excited to see that. Lonnie's clients include school districts, nonprofit organizations, and corporations in New York City, Los Angeles, Seattle, and more. Lonnie's a graduate of Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida. While at Eckerd, he earned a BA in Human Resources with a specialized track in youth services. Lonnie's been married to Margie since 1988 and has two daughters, Jessica and Lauren. Together, they live in Tampa, Florida. His hobbies include running, biking, and swimming, where in 1995, he completed the Ironman triathlon. So hopefully we'll get a chance to hear a little bit about that. I'm not sure. So
Yeah.
yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and the time is yours.
All right, Hannah, thank you so much, guys. Man, it is my pleasure just to be with everybody here, Facebook Live. What is up out there? Man, it is a pleasure. Yeah, that Ironman triathlon, that was a long time ago, and but boy, that was an experience. One of the things we talk about with the 7 habits is we talk about paradigm shifts. And we talk about being able to change the way you think and be able to challenge yourself to see things differently. And man, I haven't heard that introduction in a good while with COVID and everything. But yeah, that I think one of the things doing that massive goal of completing the Ironman triathlon, and when I crossed that finish line, I just kind of felt different. I kind of felt different. Because it's like there was this massive goal. It's like climbing Mount Everest, right? You set these massive goals, and the goals are almost so big that you don't think it's humanly possible to do it. And then when you do it, you're almost supercharged, right? It's like it doesn't matter if it's running a marathon, if it's writing a book, or whatever it is. But boy, that really does shift you, and it really did shift me as well, guys. I grew up in Tampa, Florida. I live in Tampa, Florida right now. However, right now I'm coming to you from a beautiful Homewood Suites in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta tonight, where I'll be working with a school tomorrow. And boy, during these times of COVID, boy, it's been a very big challenge to actually come out of the bubble and go into a school and actually working with people. So much of what we've been doing lately has certainly been online. But okay, guys, I am excited to be with you tonight. I am going to share my screen, and I know that maybe some of you who are watching this, you joined my colleague and good friend Gary McGuey, who shared with you last week. Out of the 7 habits, Gary shared with you habits 1, 2, and 3. And so our goal tonight and what we're doing tonight is to build off of what Gary shared and actually move into habits number 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm going to start off tonight with just a little bit of a review. So if you were not with Gary last week, and let's talk about what we learned last week. So we talk about the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I think one of the first things to just know is this gentleman right here is Dr. Stephen R. Covey. Stephen passed away back in 2012. I was fortunate to get to meet Stephen. I've been with Franklin Covey since the year 2000. So I was with them when Stephen was around for almost a decade. What a great man, a true model of exactly everything that he wrote about in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People book. Really recommend. If you don't have this book, you're going to learn it tonight. You've learned it with Gary, but you're going to get an introduction tonight of what the 7 habits are. But boy, I really recommend pick up the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People book. If you're not a reader, hey, go on YouTube, throw into YouTube and watch a bunch of the videos. You know, the 7 Habits book has been translated into over 38 different languages. It's been over 40 million copies. Time magazine actually said that the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was one of the most influential business books of the 20th century. So the 7 Habits, I personally taught the 7 Habits over 1,000 times over the years in companies and schools and nonprofit organizations all over, not just the United States, but all over the world, in places like Santiago, Chile, and down in Colombia, as well as in England and other parts of Europe. And the 7 Habits are powerful, right? They're powerful. They apply regardless of where you live, what country you are, what language you speak. The 7 Habits are very powerful. Okay, so let's jump into this. Guys, a couple of things. If you are, to make this engaging tonight, I would love it if everybody had, you're probably gonna wanna have your phone with you, right? So take your phone, and at some point tonight, I'll probably ask you to take a picture of some of the things on the screen. So have your phone with you. Also, maybe have a piece of paper, like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, just something. I've just got my little binder here that I'll use. So something like this. I'm going to have you write down a few things on a piece of paper. Okay, so that's going to help us. So just a pen or paper. I have a Sharpie here that I'll be using myself tonight. Okay, let's jump into it. Guys, the 7 Habits, as Stephen originally designed these, he put them into this model here called the maturity continuum. This model that you're looking at on the screen right here is called the maturity continuum. And if we just look at this here, what this is showing, it is, and Gary shared this with you last week, so we're just going to review this. But this model that we're looking at here is one of the most powerful models that is applied to really human effectiveness. So let me just switch up. I just want to switch it up so you can see it a little bit bigger. Here we go. Bear with me just 1 second, guys. I'm going to stop sharing the way I was. Let me reshare here. Here we go. You'll be able to see it a little bit bigger now. So this model, the maturity continuum, let's just break this down here just for a moment. I want everybody to imagine a newborn baby born into the world. This newborn baby born into the world is at this level of dependence. That newborn baby is dependent upon somebody to be a caregiver for that child. But very early in that baby's life, that baby begins to strive to move up the maturity continuum to this level of independence, right? They're looking to move just to independence, as we're looking to move to this level. So that baby that was dependent, that very soon that baby can hold the bottle themselves, right? Very soon that baby can take a spoon and they can feed themselves. Very soon that baby is striving to get up here to independence. Very soon that baby can crawl across the floor. They can walk, right? They can ride a bicycle and take the training wheels off so they can independently ride the bike. Now, that is what we call moving up the maturity continuum. Guys, it's just basic human growth and development. But here's the deal. That is not the highest level of human engagement, the highest level of human effectiveness, if you will. The highest level of human effectiveness happens at the level of interdependence. Now, interdependence, there's a key word associated with each of these. And the key word associated with interdependence is we. Interdependence, keyword is we. We can do things together. We can work interdependently. I know many of you have, if you're watching this right now, maybe you've been an athlete of some sort, or you've been on some sort of a committee or some sort of a team. Have you ever been on a team that just didn't have a lot of interdependence? There was a lot of internal drama, a lot of internal conflict, right? That's a problem, right? And this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about how do we get to this level of interdependence. Let me back up now. The key word associated with the independence is I. I can do it myself. Up here, the key word was we. Down here, the key word is I. I can do it myself. Think about, what do you think the key word with dependence might be? Key word associated with dependence is you. I need you to help me. I need you to help me. Think about this in your life, guys. Think about this. How many people do you have in your life that are just dependent upon you? And guys, that's going to be normal. That's normal. A lot of cases, depending upon what your job, you've got people who depend on you, and that is good. But do you have some people who really should be able to do things by themselves, but they still depend on you to do things for them? Here's all we ask: that people make reasonable progress in reasonable time. If there's something that you should be doing independently by yourself, then you should do it by yourself. Don't expect somebody else to do it for you. So what we do is we move from dependence to independence to interdependence. You know, there's one key word that messes this whole thing up, and the word is ego. Think about that just for a moment, guys. Think about the word ego. And if we think about the word ego, and let me just keep it right here. But if we think about the word ego, where do people with a high ego spend most of their time? I'm going to stop sharing here just for a quick second here. I'm going to reshare here because my screen kind of shifted on me there. But think about that just for a moment. People with a high ego spend most of their time at the level of independence. Person with the ego, they think they know all that. They think they know it all. They already have all the answers. They almost overconfidence, right? And they'll never go and ask you for help. They'll never go and ask you for help because they don't want to show that they're dependent. And they're probably going to struggle working on teams. Think about if you've been on an athletic team or any other team and you suddenly got a new player or a new person on your team, and that person came in and they kind of thought they were all that. They had this big ego. They brought this swagger with them. What did it do for the team dynamics? What happened there? Right? It threw off the team dynamics. It threw everything off. So I'm just curious. Are you a person that makes teams better? And once again, I'm not just talking about like a sports team, a volleyball team, a basketball. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about any type of team. It could be a work team. It could be a study group that you happen to be with in school. It doesn't matter. Are you a person that makes teams stronger? Have you ever met anybody that made a team stronger just because they were there, they were better? Have you ever met anybody that just because they joined the team, things got worse? Man, that's awful, right? Okay, so everything that we're talking about tonight is about moving up from dependence, I need you to help me, independence, I can do it myself, to moving to interdependence where we can do it together. So once again, last week, Gary focused on habits 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to talk just a little bit about those, and then we're going to get into habits 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. All right. So that was a quick little, just a little bit of a review. Now, in some of the things that Gary talked about last week, and let's just touch on a few things in habits 1, 2, and 3. Habit number 1 is called be proactive, not reactive. So let's just take a look at reactive behavior for a moment. I mean, when people are reactive, they allow outside influences, moods, feelings, circumstances control their response. Do you know anybody like that? Do you know anybody who is just kind of moody all the time and they get angry really fast? They got a short fuse. Man, there are people who are reactive. Then we got some people who are proactive. Man, when people are proactive, they pause and allow themselves the freedom to choose the response based on principles and the desired results. You know, the metaphor that we always use around proactive, reactive is just this little metaphor of the Coke, of the kind of a carbonated beverage, whether it's a Coke, Pepsi, whatever, it doesn't matter. If it's a carbonated beverage in a bottle of water, I want you to imagine if I were to take a bottle of Coke and a bottle of water and start shaking those up. If I were to really shake those up, man, I'm not opening that Coke. Right? It's going to explode. It's going to go everywhere. But you see, we could open that water. And you know what? Human beings are the same way. Human beings are just the same way. When we're exposed to a stressful situation, some people handle that stressful situation kind of like that bottle, that can of Coke right there. They're ready to go off. They got a short fuse, man. They get mad. They start yelling at people. But some people, have you noticed this? Some people, are so chill. They're kind of like that bottle of water. Doesn't matter what stressful situation is. They're calm, cool, collected. Think about some of your great athletes. Some of your great athletes. Let's take like a basketball player. There's 2 seconds left on the clock. They throw the ball. I'm not looking for anybody who is going to be panicked in that moment and all like the Coke. I'm looking for somebody who is going to be relaxed, calm, and simply says, give me the ball. Let me take the shot. I'll handle it. Right? That's what we're looking for, guys. So when we talk about proactive versus reactive, absolutely foundational to be able to move from dependence to independence. Okay. So I'm just curious. I want everybody to just think, and maybe if you've got your pen or pencil in your hand and your paper, you might even write this down. What percentage are you? What percentage Coke versus water are you? For me personally, I like to think I'm about 95% water. I'm pretty relaxed most of the time. Not 100% of the time, though, I got to admit. I do have about 5% of this in me. I'm just curious. What percent are you? What percent? You know, we ask this question a lot. Well, we find that there are 3 different kind of buckets that this falls into, 3 different categories. You know, some people are high in reactivity. They may be 75% reactive, 80% reactive, 75% or more. You know, most of us know how to handle people like that. We generally stay away from them, don't we? You see those people, they come around, you're like, listen, I got something I got to do. I got to go. But then there's another type of person here too. And that's the person who is 75% or more in proactivity. We like being around them. We know they don't have to go and light something on fire just to have a good time. But then there's one more type. And that additional type is the person who is around 50-50. And a lot of people say that. A lot of people, you know, we ask so many people this question and some people say, oh, I'm 50-50. Oh, it depends on the situation. Oh, it depends on who comes in the room. Really? It depends on who comes in the room? So you're saying if the wrong person walks in the room, you're going to be the Coke? You're going to be reactive? You're just going to go off? You're going to cause a scene, cause a fight? Who knows? Maybe next thing you know, the police come. Next thing you know, you're in jail. Come on. We can't allow our own emotions to be dictated by somebody else who happens to walk in the room. So it does depend to a certain degree, but for the most part, you're in control. You're in control. So habit number 1, be proactive, not reactive. Once again, you have the freedom to choose. You have the freedom to choose. And once again, guys, I'm not saying this is easy. This is hard, especially if you happen to have grown up in a home that was surrounded by people who were cans of Coke. What if you grew up like that? What if you grew up in that environment and say, well, Lonnie, it's not my fault I'm this way. If you met my dad, you would know why I'm this way. And if you grew up in the home I grew up in, you would be this way too. If you grew up in the neighborhood, if you went to the school that I went to, you would be this way too. Guys, listen to that. Guys, you have the freedom to choose. You do. You have the freedom to choose. It's harder for some people because of their background, because of where they were raised, because of some of the things that they've been exposed to in their life. It is. But guys, we've been teaching this for a long time, and there are countless examples of people who grew up in really, really reactive situations who are now some of the calmest, most proactive people that there are. So 50-50, not good. Don't want to be 50-50. Okay. All right. So habit number 1, be proactive, not reactive. Hey, let me take you to a model here that is in habit number 2. And this model in habit number 2 is we basically call this the mental creation versus physical creation. Mental creation versus physical creation. And, you know, we always say that all things are created twice. All things are created twice. And they're first created mentally and then physically. Let's think about that for just a moment. All things are created twice, mentally, then physically. You know, an example of a mental creation would be a blueprint. Let's say you were going to build a new house. Well, you're going to start with a blueprint. What if you didn't start with a blueprint? What if you just started with a yard full of wood and concrete and different building materials and you just said, start building, whatever? That's not going to turn out well. So we always start with a mental creation. When we have a meeting, like the meeting that we're at right now, we always start. We have a plan. I shared with you guys last time. You learned from Gary, habits 1, 2, and 3. Tonight, our focus is habits number 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, that's our goal. That's our mental creation, and that's where we're going tonight. But have you ever gone to, I mean, let's get some other examples. What if you, once again, for you athletes, what if you went into a game with no game plan? What if you went to a meeting? What if you were the leader? What if you were the chairperson for some type of a committee and you were holding a meeting, but you had no real agenda, no real plan? Have you ever been to a meeting like that? They're awful. They're awful. They just run everywhere, right? We're not sure what we're doing. And when does this meeting end? I'm not sure. So we always want to have an agenda that begin truly with that end in mind. So that, guys, and the number one place that we do this, and I know Gary reviewed this with you last week, is it has to do with a personal mission statement. And I just want to go there. And for those of you who participated with Gary last week, I hope you did. I hope you wrote a personal mission statement. It's a written constitution by which you make all your life decisions. It sounds overwhelming when you hear that. But I promise you, people have mission statements. Businesses have mission statements. Schools have mission statements. You think professional teams have mission statements? Yes, of course they do. They have mission statements. They have goals. And we want to have those in place for sure. We want to have those. You know, when we think about all of these things, I just wonder what your mission statement is all about. Wonder what your mission statement is all about. You know, I'll share with you mine. My personal mission statement is I will live a life that will make my family proud. You know, I'm the first kid in my family to go to college. Nobody else, none of my, very few of my other relatives have gone to college. They've all taken a different path in their life. And it was a decision that I made very, very early on, is I wanted to live a life that was going to make my family proud and make a big contribution, make a contribution to the world. You have the freedom to choose. Don't let your history hold you back. You can overcome all challenges, but it begins by writing a personal mission statement. If I were you, what I would do is I would probably write my personal mission statement and maybe frame it, put it on the wall. Now, your mission statement doesn't have to be written. It doesn't have to be written words. It could be a picture. It could be a painting. Maybe you're an artist. You could draw this out. You could draw it. Maybe it's a drawing that really inspires you. Put that drawing up on the wall, and then maybe in your bathrooms, in your bedroom, somewhere, put it somewhere where you can see it, so that every time you look at that, it inspires you. It helps you center yourself. It helps you reconnect with what's most important in your life. Yeah. Mission statement, guys. So important that we have that in place. You know, we talk about some of these things. This might be a good one to take a picture of, guys. I'm going to pause for just a moment there. If you want to take your phone and just take a picture of that. A good mission statement, right? It's based on principles of effectiveness. Clarifies what is most important to you, your deepest values. You know, the mission statement for Franklin Covey is the name of the company that I work for, and Stephen Covey, the guy who wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Our mission statement as a company is this: we enable greatness in people and organizations everywhere. Let me say that again. We enable greatness in people and organizations everywhere. Here's what I like about that. It's one sentence, and I can remember it. I go to some places and I see their mission statement. It's some plaque that's been on the wall for 20 years and nobody has any idea what it says. And the people who wrote it aren't even around anymore. Your mission statement should always Be something that inspires you and inspires your team. Once again, if you're on a sports team, anything like that, boy, I highly recommend we revisit that every year for sure. Thing that provides our direction and our purpose, addresses the most important issues. Okay, so here we need to pick up the pace. One other thing that Gary mentioned last week, man, this is right in the middle of habit number 3. And this is called the time matrix. The time matrix. I want to pause here just a moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And what I'm going to ask is I'm just going to ask that I'm going to make a little drawing. And I'm going to ask that if you have that piece of paper in front of you right now, I want you to make a drawing similar to what I just did here. We're just making a box and breaking it into 4 sections. I think that will be great. I'm going to remove this paper from my place here. It's just going to be a little easier for us to do this. So we have got a box broken into 4 sections. All right. So I'm going to put a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 into my box. Okay. So let's go ahead and number it that way. All right. Awesome. All right. Now, here's the deal. Every single second of your life, you are in one of these 4 boxes. You're in one of the 4 boxes. Every single second of your life. This second included. When you're asleep, that's included. So in box number 1, if you're doing this activity with me, I want you to write the word crisis. Think about how often you're in crisis mode. How often you're in a situation where you are in crisis. Man, I hope not a whole lot. Now, we call that, I wrote that in box number 1. I wrote the word crisis, okay? So, but please, we don't want to spend a lot of time in crisis. Okay, let's go to number 2, box number 2. And I'm going to call this, this is what I tend to call the quadrant of leadership. The quadrant of, and I'm going to write another word in here, learning. I'm going to write another word in here. I'm going to write the word relationships. I'm going to write another word in here. I'm going to write the word fun. I'm going to write the word renewal. So, man, I just wrote those words there. Relationships, leadership, learning, fun, renewal. Think about some of the renewal activities that we do. Number 1 renewal activity is, of course, sleep, right? I don't know what kind of sleeper you are. Do you get a good night's sleep? Man, that is quadrant 2. But have you ever just laid in bed all day and it's like, man, I'm feeling blah, I've been laying in bed all day? Right. That goes down into box number 4, or what we call quadrant number 4, which is the quadrant of waste. That is wasted time. Wasted time. So I'll just go ahead and write that whole word in there. That is wasted time. We don't want to waste time. And then finally, box number 3. This is what we call stolen time. Have you ever had anybody steal your time? Of course. We've had people steal our time, and that's not good. We don't want stolen time. Here's an example. Do you have, I don't know, do you have some friends that you hang around with, and it's like every time you're around them, it's like, man, I'm just wasting my time. What am I doing? Why am I still here? I shouldn't be here anymore. It was kind of cool at the beginning, but now I'm wasting time. Either you are wasting time or somebody is stealing your time. And we don't want that. Okay, so we think about these 4 boxes, and hopefully you made that drawing and you've got that in front of you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reshare my screen, and let's just look at it from this perspective. So box number 1, I said crisis, emergency meetings, pressing problems. Not good. Quadrant 1, we want to stay away from that. Guys, what do we know about people who live a life high in stress, right? Stress will kill you. High blood pressure, hypertension, heart disease, ulcers, all kinds of things. Quadrant 1, bad. We don't want quadrant 1. Let's go to quadrant 3. Quadrant 3, I called it stolen time. It's the quadrant of distraction. It's needless interruption. Somebody comes and interrupts you. You're trying to do something, they interrupt you. It's like they're stealing your time. Have you ever had anybody make you like do a report or some paperwork or something like that? And you're like, why am I even doing this? Nobody even looks at it. How about an irrelevant meeting? Have you ever been to a meeting and the whole time you're at the meeting, you're going, why am I even at this meeting? I'm just stealing my time. What about quadrant 4? Look at that. Wasted time. You ever had to do trivial work? Does anybody do avoidance activities? You do things to try to avoid. You got a lot of work to do. You know it's a Saturday. You got a lot of work to do, but you know what? I really do need to clean the bathroom. And then you clean the bathroom and you look in the kitchen. You're like, yeah, that sink. I need to get to that sink. The whole time what you're doing is you're avoiding what you really need to be doing. Not that the bathroom didn't need to be cleaned, but it didn't need to be cleaned as an avoidance activity. Should have been done intentionally. So anything can be in quadrant 4 that could be a waste of time. Man, I love Netflix. My wife and I, we love Netflix. We'll binge on whatever particular episode or whatever particular series we got going, and it's all good. But Netflix can turn into excessive TV. How much is too much? 1 episode, 2 episodes, 3 episodes, 4, 5, 6. Have you ever stayed up till 4 in the morning watching something and it ruins your whole next day? Come on, right? So that's kind of a big thing. Yeah, I see Maggie's comment in the chat. Maggie, thanks a lot. Yeah, those to-do lists, right? They really do help help you stay on pace, right? Yeah, to avoid what I actually have to do. Oh, I got you, Maggie. I see. So that's pretty good. Some people make it to done list too. And what did I do? And I've already done it, and then they make a to-do list after that. So good point, guys. Quadrant number 2 is where highly effective people spend most of their time. You know, it's interesting. I fly on planes quite a bit. At least I did before COVID, and I fly on planes, and occasionally, because I fly a lot, I'll get upgraded to first class. And this one particular day, I got upgraded to first class, and I went and sat in my seat, and I happened to sit next to this gentleman. Looked like he was about 65 or 70 years old, and looked like a businessman. And I just sat down and I said, "Hello, sir, how are you?" And he said, "Hello." And we're about 30 minutes into the flight, and I had my laptop open, and I was doing something on my laptop that showed 7 Habits or whatever. And he goes, "Oh, 7 Habits. I read that book." And I go, "Oh, okay, that's good." He goes, "Do you do those workshops or anything?" And I said, "Actually, yes, sir, I do." He goes, I said, "Sir, have you ever gone to one of the workshops?" He goes, "No, I've never gone to the workshop, but I read the book." I'm like, "Really? When did you read the book?" And he said, "Man, it must have been 15, 20 years ago. I don't know. When did it come out?" And I said, 89. He goes, "Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, came out." And I said, "Sir, I'm just kind of curious. You read the book. You've never gone to a workshop. What do you remember about the book?" I mean, he's sitting in first class. Something's going right for him. And I'm like, "What do you remember about the book?" He goes, "You know what? The one thing that really stood out for me about that book is I'm supposed to spend most of my time in that upper right box." That upper right box. That's right. Guys, highly effective people. Doesn't matter what you're going to do in your life. Whatever your focus is, we need to spend most of our time in this upper right box, quadrant number 2. Hey, let me give you some percentages. You know, over the years, we've gotten a lot of different, we've done so many surveys around this. I mean, literally tens of thousands of surveys, and we've gotten so much data back. You know, highly effective people spend 60 to 80% of their time in quadrant 2. 60 to 80% of their time in quadrant 2. Highly effective people. Highly effective people generally spend less than 25% of their time in quadrant 1. Let's talk about quadrant 1. Let's just look at this box here, the quadrant of crisis. Highly effective people spend less than 25% of their time, and I would say way less than 25% of their time in quadrant 1. We need to avoid quadrant 1. Guys, if you're a person and you're watching this right now and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like 50, 60, 70% of my time in quadrant 1. I'm always in crisis. Everything is always urgent. Everything is always urgent in my life." Do you know people like this? Guys, once again, quadrant 1 will kill you. Let's go to quadrant 3. This is stolen time. Don't let people steal your time. Highly effective people generally spend about 10 to 15% of their time here. There's always going to be some of our time that is stolen because there'll always be something. There'll be some kind of a little crisis. You know, the Wi-Fi will go down. You know, something. You know, there's always something. You'll get caught in traffic. You know, and suddenly your time is being stolen. There's always going to be some of that. So 10 to 15% of your time in quadrant 3. If you're a person who is spending 40, 50% of your time in quadrant 3, here's what I would predict about you. You are a really, really nice person. who has a hard time saying no to others, and you are just a person who likes to give, you like to help, you like to, if somebody asks you for a favor, you're always there for them. And that's good, right? We want to have a balance. We want to serve our friends and be there for our friends. But by saying yes to all of those things, what are you saying no to? It's easier to say no. Here's one of my favorite quotes, guys. A great quote. You can write this one down. It's easier to say no when you know the bigger yes. If you know what your mission statement is, if you know what your goals are, if you know what your values are, it's easier to say no to somebody when they ask, hey, you want to go to the mall on Saturday? We're going to the mall. Nah, listen, I got stuff to do. Come on, go with us. Nah, I can't. Come on, go. It'll be great. No, okay, I'll go. And the whole time you're at the mall, you're kicking yourself saying, why did I say yes to this? I have so much that I should be doing right now. In other words, you gave in. You said yes to something you should have said no to. So guys, have courage in the moment of choice. Have courage in the moment of choice. You got to say no to quadrant 3s. And guys, quadrant 4, here's our percentage here, 0. Our goal is 0% of our time in quadrant 4. Now, when I say that, a lot of people go, what, we're not allowed to just relax? Yes, you are. That's called renewal. What, we're not allowed to just hang out sometimes? Yes, you are. That's called renewal. That's called, that's relaxation. It could be recreation. Like I said, Netflix, quadrant 2. Episode 1, quadrant 2. Episode 2, quadrant 2. Episode 3, maybe still quadrant 2. Episode 4, maybe it drifted down. Quadrant 4 now, episode 4. I don't know. I don't know when it became excessive television. Maybe you can go and watch 8 episodes. I'm not sure. But at some point in your evening or late, early morning, it's going to become excessive. Okay, so time matrix. Guys, that was a review of the first 3 habits. Now, what we have to do now is we are just going to jump into habit number 4. Everything that we just talked about was laying the foundation for our main learning tonight. We're building off of habits 1, 2, and 3. Habit number 4 is simply called Think Win-Win. We are making a major shift. If we think back to habit number 1, be proactive, not reactive, you decide that. If we think back to habit number 2, your mental creation, your mission statement, you decide that. If we think about our time and how we spend time, do we allow our time to be stolen? Do we spend too much time in crisis? Do we waste time? Or do we spend a lot of time in quadrant 2? Guys, you decide that. It's not a relationship thing for the most part. It's generally just you. You're the one. But now we're making a shift, and we're shifting over to habits number 4, 5, and 6. And this is all about relationships. Dale Carnegie said many, many years ago, he said, the most challenging thing that you'll ever have in your life is relationships. Guys, think about the drama that happens amongst your friends. Think about the drama that happens just in life. Think about the challenges that people experience, whether it's in a peer group or whether it's in relationships. It doesn't matter. Think about that. So habits number 4, 5, and 6, all about relationships. Here we go. Let's jump into it. Habit number 4 is all about our attitude. What is your attitude when you're in a relationship? We're going to talk about that in a moment. Habit number 5 is seek first to understand. This is the skill of listening. How many people do you know who are great listeners? Who do you go to when you need somebody to listen? I mean, really, really listen. Most people don't listen. They're simply pausing, waiting for the opportunity to come in and say what they want to say. They don't really listen. They're just waiting for you to be quiet long enough so they can jump in and start saying what they want to say. We're going to talk about what genuine listening is. We call it empathic listening. We're going to talk about that tonight. And I encourage you to learn more about it, guys. Google it. Watch some of the YouTube videos that are out there on empathic listening. There's so many of them. It's the number 1 skill. We're going to talk about that more here in a moment. Habit number 6, keyword result. Habit number 6 is the keyword here is result. Habit number 6 is the result we get when we effectively live habits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stick with me on this now, guys. Habit number 6 is the result of the effective application, effective living of habits 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And guys, I would say this, and this is pretty heavy stuff, guys, so follow me on this. In any part of your life, if you are not getting the result that you want, there's a high probability that there is a breakdown in either habit 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. What if you're on a soccer team and your soccer team is like winning 1 or 2 games a year, and it's been that way every year for a while? Where's the breakdown? It could be on soccer skills, so that's kind of a different thing. But is it breaking down because the whole team is reactive with each other? They're all like a bunch of cans of Coke and they get mad all the time? Is the team losing because you don't have a good game plan? You don't have a good end in mind? Or is the team not winning because, well, we have a good game plan, but we're just not able to execute on that game plan? We're not able to actually do what we said. We're not able to put first things first. Or does it break down because people got some bad attitudes here? Or we don't communicate? Guys, it doesn't matter. I want you to imagine a couple, a couple that are together, and they may have been together for 6 months or a year or 5 years or 10 years, but all they do is fight and argue, fight and argue, fight and argue. So they're not getting the result that they want, which is a happy relationship. Where is that breaking down? Is that breaking down because one or more of them are reactive all the time? Is it breaking down because they don't have a good end in mind for what their relationship is all about? They've never really defined what their relationship is all about. Or maybe they have, but they don't follow through on it. Or maybe it comes to their attitude as well. Okay, so that is kind of the big picture there of what we're going to be talking about. Okay, so let's go here. Habit number 4, let's dig into this one. Habit number 4 is called Think Win-Win. The principles associated with habit number 4 are mutual benefit, fairness, and abundance. And I just want to take you right here. Guys, I want to pause for just a moment here, and I'm going to jump over into a separate presentation. Bear with me just one quick second. And I'm going to jump. I've had 2 different presentations actually set up here. And I'm going to go here, if you just bear with me just a quick sec. All right, just another quick sec, guys. I'll be right back with you here. Just jumping over to a separate presentation. All right, thanks a lot. Okay, so let's keep going. Let me share my screen again here. Thanks a lot. And so where we're at here is in habit number 4. There are what we call the 6 paradigms of human interaction. All right, guys, this is great wisdom right here. I encourage you, maybe take a picture of this. Now, this language has actually worked its way into kind of common vernacular. It's not uncommon to hear this on TV, even in marketing. Oh, let's create a win-win. It's a win-win situation, right? You hear these things quite a bit. And a lot of that came right from Stephen Covey's work. That's what kind of caused this language to actually get out into the mainstream. But there are actually 6 paradigms of human interaction. We talk about this one, which is win-win. However, there are 5 more. So let's check these out. There is win-lose. Guys, you know anybody who's win-lose? They always have to win. And they'll go out of their way to make you lose. We tend to call these people a bully. These people tend to bully a bit. And there are other people who are what we call lose-win. Lose-win. They will sacrifice themselves so you can win. We call these people the human doormat because they allow people to walk all over them. There's also people who are lose-lose. Lose-lose says, if I'm going down, your butt's going with me. Lose-lose. And then we also have people who are just win. Just win. I want to win. I don't care if you win too. I don't care if you lose too. It doesn't matter to me. For people who are win, They're very, very self-centered. They just think about themselves. But then there are those people who are win-win. And people who are win-win, they want to win and they want to help you win too. Think about it once again, another sports metaphor. Let's stick with a soccer example. If you're on a soccer team, you have coordinated plays that if you run a play and you do your job, it's going to help the other person, and therefore we will accomplish the goal that we want. It becomes a win-win. Think about some relationships too, some families. Some families are very, very win-win. They always want to be helping each other. Hopefully your family's like that. You have a lot of people around you who can help you out. Hey, it's a win-win situation. Hey, we're going to do this. We do this. It's a win-win. We love to create that. Once again, this is our attitude, right? This is what we're talking about in habit number 4, win-win. Now, there is also win-win or no deal. Win-win or no deal. That simply says we're going to try to reach a win-win, but if we can't reach a win-win, we're just going to simply say it's a no deal. We're going to agree to disagree. Nobody's going to get their feelings hurt. Nobody's going to become emotional over the situation. And it becomes a no deal. Let me give you an example of that. I don't know if anybody's ever gone out to have to buy a car. Man, I just don't like buying cars. It's so awkward, right? And they find a car, they take you in that little room with a table and a calculator, and they sit down with you, and you've done your homework though. Let's just say the car you're interested in is an $18,000 car. You know the value of this car. You've checked out the mileage, you've done all your research. You know the value of that car is $18,000, and you've decided that $18,000 is your top dollar, and it's a fair dollar, $18,000. And you end up in that little tiny room there with the calculator at the table, and they say, well, the price of this car is $20,000. And you go, thank you, sir. I know I see the price is $20,000, but I've done my research and I feel like a fair price is $18,000. And then they say that thing, well, let me go talk to my manager, right? It's always funny when they do that, and they go behind the wall and there's nobody behind the wall. And then they come back and they go, well, sir, we can take it down to 19.5, but we can't go any lower than that. And you say, well, listen, I've done my research. The car's worth $18,000. I'm happy to pay $18,000 today. I love the car. Let me go talk to my manager. So they go again, and they come back and they may say, well, we can go down to 19.3. That's as low as we can go. I'm sorry, that's the best we can do. Are you sure? Is that the best you can do? All right. Well, if that's the best that you can do, well, we're just going to have to say that this is a no deal. What other cars do you have? Now, let's just kind of unwrap that little scenario right there. It could have played out a different way. Could have come in and said, hey, I've done my research. It's 18,000. 19.3 is the best we can do. I know you can do better, right? And it turns all reactive. Next thing you know, people are emotional. People are upset. And they end up storming out of the place. Why did it have to end that way? It didn't have to end that way. It could have ended with simply saying, you know what? If that's the best you can do on this car, I'm afraid this is just a no deal. It wouldn't be enough of a win for me to pay 19.3. It's a no deal. Tell me what other cars you have. And if you don't have any other cars, then I'll just have to take my business elsewhere. Once again, thank you very much for your help. I'm not offended. I'm not upset. Simply a no deal. Right? Okay. So habit number 4, when we think about habit number 4, it's really a frame of mind. It's a frame of mind and heart that constantly seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions. Win-win is based on the paradigm that there's plenty out there for everybody, that one person's success is not achieved at the expense of others. Stephen said that. Look at the picture in the background on this slide. Have you ever gone rock climbing or mountain climbing or anything where you really create that win-win situation? Of course. Why doesn't that play out even more? Think about some of your people some of the people you may know who may not have a win-win mindset. Okay. Habit number 4, think win-win. Now, a couple of things here associated with win-win. If you're taking notes here, I'd love for you to write down the following words. Write down the word courage and consideration. Courage and consideration. So what we say for habit number 4, to think win-win, you really have to have a balance of both of these. A balance of courage and consideration. Have to be very courageous, willingness and ability to speak your thoughts, but respectfully. But then consideration, willingness and ability to seek and listen to others' thoughts and feelings with respect. There are some people, maybe you know people like this, very high in courage, very courageous. They'll say anything to anybody, anytime. I don't care if they hurt their feelings or not. Other people, extremely considerate, almost overly considerate. I'm just kind of curious about you. Are you equally balanced in courage and consideration? Or is it skewed one way or the other? Are you very high in courage, but not as considerate as you should be to others? Or are you very high in consideration and not very courageous? So let's think about win-win. Win-win people are both very well balanced. Think about win-lose people. What do you think? A person who is win-lose, are they high in courage or consideration? Yeah, courage, right? Person who is win-lose, very courageous, not very considerate. How about a person who is lose-win? Lose-win, the whole human doormat, they just allow people to walk all over them. Overly considerate and not very courageous, right? Okay, so key learning to take away from this tonight, guys. A balance of courage and consideration, all right? Okay, so let's just sort of keep on going. You know, if we think about like strategies around this, and I'm just going to ask you, I mean, ask yourself, what could you do? I'm just going to pause here for 10 seconds. What could you do to increase your courage or your consideration? So if you're low in courage, guys, I'm really going to encourage you to really work on that. Be very intentional to become more courageous, but not in a mean way. Some people say, I'm courageous, you know, and no, you're rude is what you are, right? There's a fine line between being rude and a bully and courageously standing up for yourself. Got to do that, guys. That's habit number 4. Think win-win, balanced, courage, and consideration. All right, what I want to do here, let's take us into habit number 5. Take us into habit number 5. Let me pause for just a moment before I go there. And yeah, thanks, Maggie. Appreciate that comment in the chat. Yeah, for courage, you could take more risks. I agree. I think one of the things I mentioned, you know, during the introduction, I talked a little bit about, you know, what it felt like, one of the reasons why I did the Ironman triathlon. Well, I think inherently as a young person growing up, I was probably a little less courageous than I needed to be. And I identified that in my life at a very early age, probably 20, 21, 22 years old. And I intentionally began to take on things that would help me become more courageous. And you know what? I didn't even realize it, Maggie. You just kind of put it that way. I guess that's what I did when I signed up for the Ironman triathlon, because it certainly did cause me to be much more courageous after I did that. Guys, I'm going to stop sharing here for just a quick second. Bear with me just 1 second, and I want to just kind of go over here. Bear with me another second here. All right. So here we go. We're now going to jump right back into habit number 5. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And habit number 5, guys, habit number 5 for most people, I don't know, probably not most, many people, habit number 5 is the toughest habit of all. It's the hardest habit. It's the habit of communication, the habit of just seeking first to understand. I want everybody to look on the screen right here for a second. I think the most important part of habit number 5 is this little comma right here. A little comma tells us we're breaking it into 2 parts. There's 2 parts to habit 5. The first part is seeking first to understand. What if somebody comes to you one day and they've got something, man, I really need to talk to you about this. There was something that happened yesterday, and I got to tell you, I was thinking about it last night, and it just got me so upset. I just don't know what to do. And you say, yeah, it was what happened yesterday at 4 o'clock. Oh, what happened at 4 o'clock yesterday? That's different, right? So that seek first to understand, and that's big, right? Look at the second part, then to be understood. Then you need to be able to communicate what you want to say. You started out by listening, seeking first to understand, and then you have to be able to communicate what you want to communicate in a very clear and concise way. Have you ever met anybody in your life? It's like they'll use 20,000 words to communicate something that could have totally been communicated in 200 words. It's like, why did you just take 15 minutes to tell me something that you could have communicated to me in 15 seconds? How can we be clear and concise with our communication? Don't say too little, but don't say too much. Get there, right? So habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. When we talk about the principles here within habit number 5, respect, mutual understanding, empathy, and once again, courage. I'm just curious, who's the best listener that you ever met? Who's the best listener? You know, I've met a lot of great listeners just in my life. There are just so many people who are such great listeners, and I met some horrible listeners. But I think one of the best listeners was probably my grandmother. And there was just something different, and she passed away when I was just young, but I just have the memory of being a little boy, and she would just sit down next to me. And as she would sit down next to me, she just had this ability to just ask an open-ended question. And I don't know what it was. I think it was something about her eyes, the way that she would look at me, and her face. I guess it just conveyed, I guess you would call it love. But in what she conveyed, it just kind of made me feel so comfortable that I would just share things. I would just talk, and I wasn't like that around everybody. But Grandma had that ability. She had that special ability to just make me feel like I could just tell her anything. Do you have friends like that? Do you have a family member? Maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your grandma. Who is it that you go to when you really want to listen? You know, here's a big thing to consider. Do people who need to be heard come to you? Are you that person for somebody? Are you that great listener for somebody? I hope you are. Somebody comes to you and says, man, I really need to talk. Do you just say, listen, now's a good time. Let me just go ahead and stop what I'm doing. Let me turn off the TV. Let me turn off the computer. Let me just be all focused on you. Seeking first to understand. Yeah. Be that great listener. Let's learn a little bit more about this. You know, when it comes to being a great listener, there's you know, some people do this. I need to make sure people understand my point of view. So that's very common. Look at this little picture here. Look at this picture in the background, if you would. You know, and then there's the highly effective paradigm. I have greater influence with others if I truly understand them first. Yeah. You know, some people listen with the intent to reply, as I alluded to before, and some people use empathic listening. Do you listen with the intent to reply? Are you truly using empathic listening? Can you truly listen through the other person's lens? I want to go back to this slide here just for a moment. I want everybody to imagine, and let me just do this here just for a quick second, and I'm just going to stop sharing here for just a quick second, and I'm going to make a little drawing here on my paper. And everything is a continuum. So I'm making, and if you want to make this with me, you can do that. Let me pull this paper out of my little notebook here. And I'm just making a little line like this, okay? Little continuum. And when it comes to listeners, I don't know which type of listener you are. Some people are very right brain. Some people are very left brain people. If you're a very left brain person, and for those of you watching this right now, you may be a left brain person. If you are a left brain person, you are very logical, very sequential. You like to have a step-by-step process for doing everything. When you listen to people, you're like, give me the facts, give me the facts, give me the facts. That's all I need is the facts. But then there are right brain people. So, and the right brain people, more artistic, right? They're very dialed into the emotional side of things, right? So left brain people tend to be, and I just wrote this here, look what I wrote, fix. Left brain people tend to be people who want to fix everything. Are you that type of person? When somebody comes to you and they share something with you, you say, oh, you know what you need to do? You know what you need to do? You need to do, oh, that happened to me once. And when it happened to me, here's what I did. See, we also call those people autobiographical listeners. Every time somebody talks to them, they're listening through their own autobiography. Oh, that happened to me. That happened to me, except when it happened to me, it happened to me a whole lot worse than what you're talking about. They also become one-uppers. Do you know a one-upper? Do you have any friends who are one-uppers? Whatever story you tell, they got a story a little bit better. You just went on vacation. They tell about their vacation that was better than your vacation. Some people are one-uppers. Some people are fixers. Some people are autobiographical listeners. Whatever you tell them, they've got a story that is similar. Oh, that happened to me too. That happened to me. And whenever somebody comes to them and they really, listen, I really need somebody to just listen to me because this thing happened yesterday. And you go to talk to these people and they go, oh, that happened to me too. Don't worry about it. Suck it up. You'll deal with it. Guys, that's not what they want. They want the other side of the continuum. On the right side of the continuum, I'm writing the word emotion. And this, on the right side of the continuum, it's where people are truly listening with emotion. I'm dialed into your emotion. I can feel that. I sense that emotion in you. Now, this is where we're listening with empathy. So if you're taking notes with me, I'm writing the word empathic listening. We're listening with empathy. Empathic listening. So what we're going to be talking about tonight here is the difference between what is over here, empathic listening, and what is over on the other side, which is listening to fix, or what we might call autobiographical listening. Okay? All right. So with that said, I would ask you, where do you spend most of your time? Are you more left brain, the fixer, or can you truly listen with empathy with people? Okay. So yeah, I said Hannah made a comment about your father being a great listener. Thank you so much, Hannah. I got that. That's awesome for you that you had that in your life. Okay, let me share my screen again. Let's come right back here. Let's stick with what we're talking about in habit number 5. So looking at things through other people's eyes is what we're talking about. All right. Now, there are lots of things that get in the way of listening. Let's just go down this road here for just a moment. Things that get in the way. What do you think? Let me be quiet for a moment. I'm just focused on this little page right here, down here, question number 3. What gets in the way of effective listening? The answer is there are a lot of things that get in the way of effective listening, right? Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Yeah, Yeah, and Maggie was writing in there that she's more right brain, but you have a little left in there too. That's awesome. Yeah, we do talk about that, Hannah. You said distractions get in the way. Yeah, your own problems. Thanks, Maggie. Your own problems get in the way. So you're so just kind of encumbered with your own problems that you can't think about other people. And the bottom line is there are all kinds of things that get in the way of effective listening. It could be the environment that you're in. There could be loud music going in the background and you can't listen. You could be distracted by something else that's weighing on your mind. Maybe you're dealing with your own crisis. Maybe there's a language barrier. You can't listen because you're struggling to even understand what the person is saying. There's all sorts of environmental things that cause people not to be able to listen. It's too hot. It's too cold. There are all sorts of things. So guys, when it comes to being an effective listener, we really need to control or control the variables that are in our space. If a TV is too loud, turn it off. If the music's too loud, turn it off. If you're not in an environment where you can be distracted, or if you are too distracted in that moment, say, listen, can we come back to this in an hour? I just got a horrible text right here and it's really weighing heavy on my mind, but I truly feel what you're saying, and I can tell that you've got some emotion associated with this. So can I come back to you in about an hour or so? Watch out for those things that get in the way and set yourself up for great listening, a great listening opportunity. That's what we really need to do. So one of the things that we do with autobiographical listening, let's just go there for a moment, is we either probe, evaluate, give advice, or we interpret. So this would be very left brain, very, very left brain. Let me put this in the form of a story for you and you'll get this. So I've got two daughters. Let's say one daughter, she's 15 years old. Her name is Lauren. And she comes home from school one day and she's been dating this boy, Michael, for a while. And she comes home one day from school and she says, Daddy, I can't believe it. I've been going out with Michael for like 2 months and he just broke up with me today. So she comes to me and she's extremely emotional. That tells me she's asking for empathic listening right there. And if I was genuinely empathically listening, I would say, oh my gosh, sweetie, I am so sorry. I can really tell you're so upset about this. Here, let's just kind of sit down. I'd just tell me what you're feeling right now. Tell me more about this. And she just starts talking and she just starts telling me all of these things. And she just goes on and on about Michael for a long time. And that would be empathic listening. I really wouldn't have to say much, honestly. I really just have to give her the facial expression. Like, remember the grandma eyes I was talking about? I really just have to let her know that I'm there, I care, and probably just a few little words here and there. I'm so sorry. Now, let's take that same situation and let me go autobiographical on her. Let's take this first one, probe. She comes in, she's crying. Michael just broke up with her. And I probe. Probing is asking questions. Really? He broke up with you? Why? Why do you think he broke up with you? I don't know, Daddy. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just curious why. I mean, he was a nice kid, I'm just curious why he would break up with you. What if I evaluate? What if she comes in, she's crying, I evaluate and I say, you know what? Hey, I don't blame him. I would have broke up with you too. I saw the way you were treating that kid the other day. That's a nice kid. What if I give advice? You know what, sweetie? He broke up with you. You know what? I remember back when I was in high school, my girlfriend broke up with me. You know what? Don't worry about it. You'll get over it eventually. Come on, you're good. What if I go beyond that and say, and try to, you know what? The guy I work with, Bill, he's got a son, what? What are you talking about? What if I try to interpret? I wonder why he broke up with you. You know what? He plays high school football. It's in the middle of football season. I know football season can be stressful. I bet he's just going through some stressful stuff at school with football and everything. Don't worry about it, sweetie. He'll come back. See, all of those are wrong in that moment. She's not asking me to probe, evaluate, advise, or interpret. She is simply asking me to just be there for her, just love her, just really, really listen to her with empathy, genuine empathy. It's hard. You know, I thought we'd watch a video here, and I'm gonna go ahead and share this video. Let me stop sharing my screen here, and let me just change one little setting here. I'm gonna share again, and here we go. Let me share this. And let's watch a video. We're going to hear in this video, we're going to hear from Stephen Covey here in this video, and he's going to talk about autobiographical responses, and then it's going to go into an example of an autobiographical kind of an interaction between a son and the mother. And I want you to really look close and see what mistakes does the mother make in this situation. Let's watch this video.
One thing that gets in the way of meaningful communication is autobiographical listening. This means that we filter what others say through our own story, our own experiences, our biases, prejudices, and all of our values. You see, when I listen autobiographically, part of my story gets added to your story. And then when I respond, I base it on my own frame of reference. I might ask questions, or I might agree or disagree. I might decide it's necessary to counsel you, or try to solve the problem or fix the situation. So with the best of intentions, I can end up leading the conversation. And even worse, I don't hear what you're really trying to say. Autobiographical responses fall into 4 categories. Probing, asking questions. Evaluating, like agreeing or disagreeing. Advising, that is giving counsel. Or interpreting, or trying to figure a person out or to analyze them. But don't misunderstand. Autobiographical responses can be very appropriate, especially when the emotional bank account with another person is high. But when real understanding and clarity are needed, and when the problems are very emotional, autobiographical responses only get in the way. Watch the impact of autobiographical responses in the next segment.
Doing your homework?
What's the point? I'll never use it.
Of course you will.
Classical Greek drama. Not likely.
No one gets anywhere without an education these days.
Really? Joe's got a full-time job and he's already a manager. He has his own car, his own apartment. And me? I'm not that interested in this.
But you're interested in this?
Absolutely. I just think it's a waste of time to learn something you'll never use in the real world, when I could be out working, getting a real experience, making money.
So you want to quit? Think about your sister. She struggled in school, but she worked hard, and now she's
the queen of college and probably become a brain surgeon and end global warming. I'm not my sister, Mom.
I know it's hard right now, but all the effort will be worth it. When I was your age,
You wanted to join a rock band and travel the world, but instead, you chose hard work and all this.
You just have to hang in there.
No, I don't.
Fine. Quit. Move in with Joe. You think life is so wonderful, so easy? Maybe then you'd appreciate what you have here.
Fine, maybe I will.
Fine.
Well, that did not end well, right? And think about what the mother did right there. When we think about autobiographical listening, she certainly went autobiographical. At one point, she compared him to his sister, tried to compare his life to her desire to be in a rock band, right? So all of those, that comparison thing, not good. She went autobiographical. Not good. And his needs were not met, and it ended in a horrible way. So when we break down empathic listening, we're going to watch part 2 of that video. There's part 2 of this. And we're going to replay this in an empathic way. But to really empathically listen, we need to analyze our intent plus our skill. What is your intent? Think about somebody in your life right now. Seriously, I want you to think about somebody in your life. Somebody in your life right now who you need to have an empathic communication with or an empathic listening with. Have you ever heard anybody said, hey, when I get home later, we're going to have a talk? We're going to have a talk. Hey, when I get home later, I'm going to have a listen. I'm not going to have a talk. We're going to have a listen, because I can tell you're really upset about something. And I can't wait to get home so I can really just hear you. And that would be my intent. I'm not going to come home and have a talk. I'm going to give you a good talking to. I've heard people say things like this. No, let's analyze our intent. Our intent is to understand. And then we combine that with the skill of reflecting back feelings and words. So our intent and reflecting back our feelings and words. Take a look at this here. This is a good one to take a picture of, guys, by the way. The skill, some people really, really struggle with this. It can be as simple as simply saying, you feel angry about what was said last night at dinner, don't you? You feel upset about something that happened at school today. You feel discouraged by how things are going in your life right now. You feel speechless over what happened. You can almost just throw in the blank there. But you can't read it. Now, remember the key word here was skill. Remember earlier on this call, we were talking about how habit number 5 is a skill. It is a skill. So I couldn't just go to somebody and say, oh, you feel angry about what happened at dinner last night. Yeah, crazy person. I do feel angry. What are you reading off of a cue card? What's going on? See, you can't do that. It's got to come from the heart. It's got to be so genuine. Gosh, I'm so sorry, sweetie. I can really tell you're angry about what happened last night. Tell me a little bit more about that. Guys, you got to be so genuine. You got to be real. You got to be real with people. And if you're just kind of faking it because you're learning this today, or you read a book or watched a YouTube video on how to listen, you're going to fail. It's got to be genuine. Okay. All right. So let's listen to Dr. Covey and let's see part 2 of that video.
Too often, we listen to others with the intent to reply. Empathic listening is an altogether different way of being. It is listening with the intent to understand, with the intent to get to the bottom of an issue. It's one of the most important habits any leader can practice. It's the key to effective results in interpersonal relationships, in teams, and in organizations. When we listen empathically, we try to understand the other's point of view with no judgment, with no preconceived end in mind. We simply seek to understand. We temporarily suspend our view long enough to see the world through their eyes. Only people who are secure enough with themselves, those with a firm grasp of the private victory, have the capacity to listen in this way. It's important to note that empathic listening is not about agreeing or disagreeing. It's not about solving or fixing or figuring someone out. It's simply about understanding another's point of view and feelings. Watch what happens when you listen with the sole intent to understand.
Doing your homework?
What's the point? I'll never use it.
Sounds like you're frustrated.
I'm just sick of school. It's pointless. I mean, look at Joe. He dropped out of school, has a full-time job, has his own car, his own apartment, and I'm stuck here trying to decipher some ancient Greek play no one even cares about.
So you think Joe's got it better?
I mean, Joe's always bragging about how much better his life is now that he doesn't have to worry about teachers bossing him around or everyone telling him what to do.
Joe's got a lot of freedom.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's doing something. He has to work late nights, so he can't hang out with us as much or go to the games, but at least he's going somewhere.
So he's missing out on a lot, but at least he's moving forward.
I just can't get this stuff. Dad's gonna kill me. You won't tell him, will you?
You're worried about what Dad'll think?
It's just he always talks about how education is important and how he expects me to go to college, but how can I do that if I can't do this?
So you're worried that if you don't understand this, then you won't get it in college either.
I know I can't. They gave me a reading test, right? On the reading test, I scored on the 9th grade level, Mom. The 9th grade. I'm a senior.
And that worried you?
No matter what I do, I just don't get it. And I know Dad will know that I'm flunking out. I don't want to quit school, but I don't know any way out.
You don't want to drop out of school, and you don't want to disappoint Dad.
Right. So what will I do?
I'm not sure. But I'm sure we can figure things out.
All you need to do is reflect what they feel and say in your own words. And because it's so simple, we often underestimate its power. If you don't believe me, just try it tonight with someone important to you. Just simply reflect what they feel and say in your own words. Remember now, listen with the intent to understand, not to reply. It's the key to opening up people's hearts and getting to the real issue.
So guys, Dr. Covey in that video right there really issued a challenge for you. His challenge, I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen there for just a second, but his challenge was to find somebody who needs an empathic conversation tonight. And to do that, and I encourage you to do that. Practice this, guys. Empathic listening is just something that you can't just do it. You need to practice it. And the more you practice it, the better that you will get. Now, let's break down what the mother and son, how that conversation went. We're kind of running on short on time tonight. So there should be a part 3 to that video, right? Part 3 or a third version of that video anyway. And that would be where the mother realizes that the emotion in the son has come down. The son is clearly upset about getting this low reading score. He's very upset about, not getting into college and disappointing his dad. He's clearly disappointed about all that, and he's experiencing emotion. And what the mom is doing right there is she's literally allowing his emotion to come down. And then once his emotion comes down a bit and he feels like he's been heard, then remember, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Then at that point, they would begin to explore options, right? Explore, well, what can we do? How can we provide a solution? How can we maybe get you tutoring? How can we talk to dad about it? How can we do all of these things? All right. Okay. So wanted you to see that. Okay. So we've got some more to learn tonight, guys. Here we go. Let's keep going here. Probably have about another 20 minutes or so as we kind of wrap up habit number 4 and our habit number 5. So I'm just going to run through this. I wanted to just let you lay your eyes on this. When it comes to habit number 5, remember I said when emotions are high, that's like a red light situation. I mean, emotions are high, red, right? But then as emotions come down, it kind of goes into a yellow light situation and then eventually a green light. And when emotions are down, it's a green light situation. Now you can go autobiographical. You can go ahead and explore different alternatives and so forth. Okay, so some empathic listening tips. I just want you to see this. Number one, focus on your intent. Don't worry about the correct responses, and don't be afraid of silence. See, that's weird already, isn't it? So don't be afraid of silence. It's okay. Not somebody doesn't have to be talking all the time. So I want to take us into habit 6. Remember, the key word associated with habit 6, you remember this from earlier? Result. Habit 6 is the result of habits 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When you're a great listener, when you can truly listen to people with empathy, when needed, right? We don't always empathically listen. There are times it's a green light situation all day long. You may go through a whole day and never have any red light situations, but you might. And you got to be prepared with that skill when the time calls for it. So the result of all of habits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is habit 6, which is synergy. Let's learn a little bit more about it. The principles here. We talk about creativity, cooperation, diversity. Let's explore this word diversity here for a moment. Diversity simply means different. And the way that we get to a synergistic outcome, we get a better result is by being around people who see things differently. People who may see things differently, who may have a different experience, somebody may have grown up in a different town than you, went to a different school than you, went to a different college than you, hang around different people. Somebody who may have grown up in Europe, somebody who may have grown up in Miami, Florida. I don't know, but people who have diverse backgrounds, they come together and they bring a different viewpoint. And it is through their different viewpoint that we can be right in the midst of creativity. But we have to be very open to cooperate, and we also have to have a great degree of humility in those conversations. Remember, the opposite of humility is ego. We don't want to have a big ego. If you've got a big ego, we're not going to get to synergy. Okay, so a common paradigm is we don't get to synergy because we compromise. Look at this, guys. Let's break down this word compromise. And in our culture, some people brag about compromise. Oh yeah, we compromise. And sometimes compromise is good. It's the best we could do. But compromise is not synergy. Let's say my wife and I, we want to go out to dinner one night, and she wants to go to Red Lobster and I want to go to Outback Steakhouse. I don't know if those are two good restaurants, but anyway, she wants to go to Red Lobster. I want to go to Outback Steakhouse. I don't even like seafood, so she wants to go to Red Lobster. I want to go to Outback Steakhouse. So we talk about it and we compromise and we go to Red Lobster. Just kidding, because I'm a good husband and I went lose-win. See how I went lose-win on that? See, we don't want to go lose-win. So, but we compromise. We say, okay, well, hey, let's go this week. We can go to Red Lobster, and next week we'll go to Outback. Okay, we compromised. So that first night when we're going to Red Lobster, I'm not really super happy. So it's compromise. It's not synergy, right? Let's look at what highly effective is. Highly effective is when let's come up with something that is better than either of us has in mind. Well, maybe there's a different restaurant that we haven't even talked about that we could go to that both of us would be happy. They serve great seafood and great steaks. And both of us would be happy. Great. That's what we call a third alternative. It's not my way. It's not your way. It's a third way that is even better than what we were talking about. You know, sometimes it's very common for people to just reject or tolerate differences or settle for conflict or compromise. That's not good. What we're doing is valuing differences and seeking this third alternative. Guys, this is hard. This is hard to do. And I'm telling you, as a leader in your life, as a leader, for those of you who work in the business world, for those of you who are students in school, for those of you who are on athletic teams, for those of you who just work in teams in general, this is hard to do. It's hard to truly value differences, remain humble, and seek out those third alternatives. Because I tell you, that's what the great leaders can do. Great leaders can do. So when we talk about what is synergy, right? Synergy is when we are truly seeking that third alternative. You know, I love this little quote. If two people have the same opinion, one is unnecessary. Process that in your mind. I'm going to be quiet here for 5 seconds. If two people are on a committee and both of them have the same opinion, one of them is unnecessary. Why have both of them? They're both going to say the same thing. You might as well get rid of one person who has that opinion. Bring in somebody who has a different opinion so that we might be able to synergize to get to maybe a third alternative that is even better. But it takes a high level of maturity to be able to do that. No, I don't want to bring in anybody who disagrees with me. Then it's going to be chaos in here. We're going to do nothing but fight and argue. Well, you can actually discuss with people who have a different idea in a very professional, in a very effective way, to where you end up with an idea that's better than either of you had in mind. But some people don't do that because of they're afraid of the conflict that could occur, or they're afraid of the conflict that they know will occur because of their own inability to be able to get along with people who are not necessarily seeing things the same as them. So what they do is they create a committee with a bunch of people who all see it the same way. Have you ever been on a committee like that? It's just like, why do we even have a committee? Everybody on this committee sees things the same way. We like having people around us who see things differently, right? Conflict can be good. If you ever run into anybody and you've got an opinion about something that you're pretty strong-minded about, and you share that opinion with them and they say, well, I see it totally differently. Here's what you should say. Wow, you see it differently? I'm intrigued. Help me understand how you see it differently. And maybe I'm the one who has a blind spot. And by you sharing with me a different way of viewing it, I may grow and become better because of it. Guys, this is synergy. But once again, you have to be very humble and very secure in who you are as a person to be able to get to this level. Okay, let's just look at this model here. Let's just kind of look at this. Sorry, just moving around a few things on my screen right here. But this is called the pathway to conflict. Look at what the pathway to conflict is. We reject or tolerate people. Do you have any people like that in your life? Hey, I'm gonna tolerate you till the end of the year, and then I'm not gonna have to deal with you anymore. That's horrible. But clearly, those things happen. It's either your way or my way. You ever heard anybody say that? Hey, my way or the highway. Right? No. Right? These people are unwilling to explore different alternatives. Therefore, they limit things. They only can get to compromise, defensiveness, or how about hostility? Do you have anybody in your life, if they showed up in the room you're in right now, if they walked in the door, it would be absolute chaos? Yeah, we have people in our life like that. Maybe there's somebody that walked in your door right now and you would be a little defensive around them. Maybe a little passive aggressive around them. Maybe you have some people that you get along with and you just sort of compromise with them. Notice the math equivalence right there. We say 1 + 1 = 1.5. That's compromise. Notice 1 + 1 should equal 2, but it doesn't because we compromise. I give up a little bit, you give up a little bit, and we end up with a little bit less than what we would have done. How about defensiveness? 1 + 1 should equal 2, but in this case, it equals 1/2. Now we get less than if we had done it by ourselves. How about hostility? Once again, 1 + 1 should equal 2, but in this case, we're now in the negative territory. It's horrible. Okay, so guys, this is the path to conflict, but let's look at this. Let's look at the pathway to synergy. How amazing is this? When we value differences and we seek to understand and we clarify what our end in mind is, and we're willing to explore different people's ideas, and we surround ourselves with people who see things differently, it increases the probability we're going to end up with a third alternative where 1 + 1 = 3, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Something better than either of us has in mind. And you know what? Down through history, that is the way many great things were created. Think about Apple for a moment. You know, Steve Jobs. Do you think Steve Jobs would have ever done everything he did without, I think it was Wozniak, right? Do you think that would have ever happened? Wozniak, Steve Jobs, two very different people come together, something amazing. Obviously, the story is much more complicated than that. You think we ever would have Reese cups if the chocolate people didn't get together with the peanut butter people and boom, Reese cup? Joking about that a little bit, but I mean, it's something like that, right? I mean, penicillin, think about some of the great inventions down through history. In fact, think about some of your best friends. When you get around some of your best friends, it's just like synergistic. It's special. But then think about some of the other people you get around with, and it's just not special. Not as much. All right. So habit number 6. I want to take you here for a moment, just kind of jumping through a few slides here, given our time. And I want to share with you a video. Maybe you've heard of this. This is called landfill harmonic, and in South American country there, they have people are living in extreme poverty. And such extreme poverty that these people live literally off of the landfill. So the landfill, people dump their garbage there, and people will go through the garbage and they'll pull out things that they can literally live off of. And this guy was coming through, a recycling specialist, and he was working with the landfill about recycling. And the guy happened to be a musician. He played the violin. And there were some kids around, and he talked about music. And the kid said, nah, we could never play the violin, or we can never do music because we're so poor and we live off this landfill. And there was another guy that was there. I think his name was Cola. And Cola says, I think I could build instruments out of some of the trash that's in this landfill. Guys, this is truly finding a third alternative. Check this out. Here we go.
Me llamo Juan Manuel Chávez, más conocido como Baby. Tengo 19 años y toco el cello. Este cello está hecho de una lata de aceite y las clavijas son de una vieja cuchara para golpear la carne y para hacer el ñoquis. Y suena así.
Teura es vista como un lugar donde se tira toda la basura, donde hay un mal olor, donde hay mucha suciedad.
La familia que acá vive recicla todo lo que hay en la basura y se vende.
Yo llegué acá a Teura para trabajar en un proyecto de reciclado de basura. Los recicladores se dieron cuenta que yo también era músico. Hizo surgir un deseo en estas personas que yo enseñe música a sus hijos. Una comunidad como Cateura no es un lugar para tener un violín. De hecho, un violín cuesta más que su casa. Fue la idea de Cola de hacer instrumentos con los materiales que estuviesen a mano. El material que más hay en Cateura es la basura.
Dos maderas lindas para servir para mi alma de cello y contrabajo y violín. El primer violín era un volador de fideo de aluminio y el mango tenía tacuara. Y poner la cuerda a Fabio y empieza a tocar.
Y eso fue un continuo probar y probar y probar. Nunca nos hubiésemos imaginado que ese primer violín sería el inicio de todo un proceso que se transformó luego en una orquesta. 1, 2, 3 y... Fue muy importante la participación de varias personas. Cada una desde su cualidad, de su visión, desde su experiencia, desde sus habilidades. Sin ese tipo de aportes, esta orquesta no sería lo que es hoy.
La música para mí significa todo. Sin la música estaría por ahí. Cuando ya escucho el sonido del violín, siento como mariposa en el estómago, así una sensación que no sé cómo voy a explicar.
El director me dijo para poder enseñarle a algunos niños en Cateura, no tengo otra opción que ayudarle a esta comunidad, porque es algo que con el tiempo puede cambiar muchas cosas.
Hoy en día hay 160 niños que están aprendiendo música.
Está cambiando totalmente a la comunidad y a la gente, pero para bien, muy positivo. Ellos sienten de que tienen el apoyo total de papá y mamá.
Creo que mis padres se sacrifican por mí y por mi hermana, porque ellos quieren que nosotros salgamos adelante y hacer las cosas que ellos no pudieron hacer cuando eran más chicos.
Yo cuando voy a Cateura, la gente dice, ¿te vas a Cateura donde está la basura? Y yo le digo, no, me voy a Cateura donde está la gente. Donde están los niños que quieren aprender. La gente se da cuenta que no tenemos que tirar la basura muy fácilmente. Y no tenemos que desechar a las personas muy fácilmente.
Guys, I encourage you to Google and just go on YouTube and just search landfill harmonic. Landfill harmonic. There's a lot of, there's a follow-up. There are a couple of follow-ups to this video that you just saw if you're curious about them. I just love the conversation there at the end of the video. At the end of the video, that's where all the trash is. No, that's where all the people are. The people who want to learn. We shouldn't throw our trash away so easily, and we shouldn't throw our people away so easily. Guys, that's an example of synergy. That's getting an outcome that is better than anybody ever thought. Who would have ever thought that they could build an orchestra out of trash from the landfill, right? Who would have ever thought that? Okay, so here is what we would like to do just in our time together. We've just got a few more minutes. I just want to take you to habit 7. And this takes us to the very last of the 7 habits. Habit number 7, you'll remember from the maturity continuum, is a giant circle that goes around the entire maturity continuum. Obviously, this guy right here is practicing martial arts in some way. And just really a way of renewing himself physically, spiritually, right? Probably emotionally as well. Sharpen the saw. And we tend to say that there are 3 parts of this: renewal, continuous improvement, and balance. Look at this guy in the background here, just kind of sitting there in a beautiful place, beautiful day, just having some moments of contemplation. Where do you go to find those moments? Do you have a couple of special places that you go, or how do you get yourself in that zone of self-reflection? What do you do? We all should have that. We all should have that place where we go. See, some people just say, I'm too busy to take time to do things like that. Other people say, I take time for myself every day because it gives me the ability to do everything else. It's what enriches you. Things like getting a good night's sleep, things like meditation, things like yoga, things like going on a good run, getting exercise, spiritual renewal. All of those things are what fuels your life. They provide you fuel for life. We have to sharpen the saw. We have to invest in ourselves. And some people just don't invest in themselves. They rarely actually invest in themselves. And then other people achieve what they call daily private victory. Every single day, they invest in themselves. So I want to kind of close tonight with a video called Daily Private Victory. Here we go.
Life can be tough. It can test us, it can stretch us, even push us to our breaking point and sometimes beyond. With all of the demands that we have to juggle, it is easy to become imbalanced, stressed out, or to even feel empty inside. And if we don't take the time every day for renewal, we simply won't have the capacity. We won't have the strength or the energy or the insight to deal with life's challenges. Trying to live without renewing ourselves each day is like trying to cut a piece of wood with a dull saw. You can't do it. To gain the power you need to face life's challenges, you must make time each day to sharpen the saw. Habit 7 surrounds all the other habits because, simply put, it's the habit that makes all the other habits possible. It's about preserving and enhancing the single greatest asset you have, you. It means regularly renewing and strengthening the 4 key dimensions of your life: your body, your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Let's start with the body. Body represents our physical energy and our capacity to do things. We can keep ourselves sharp in this area through regular exercise, through good nutrition, proper rest, and of course, finding time to relax. Mind represents our mental sharpness, our ability to think clearly and to make good decisions. We renew ourselves in this area through continuous learning, writing, reading, as well as planning and organizing, so our minds are not cluttered and we get very clear on what needs to get done. Heart represents the quality of our relationships. We can sharpen our saw in this area by taking time for people, by taking time to build and to strengthen and to sometimes repair our most important relationships. In other words, by making daily deposits into the emotional bank accounts of other people. And finally, spirit. Spirit represents that inner self that exists far beneath the surface of your everyday self. It represents your center, your deepest convictions and your values, your source of purpose and meaning. We can renew ourselves in this area in many ways, such as spending time in nature or meditation, listening to inspiring music, thinking deeply on our mission and our values, religious worship, or meaningful service. Sharpening the saw each day in the physical, the mental, the social, and the spiritual dimensions is a practice we call the daily private victory. I recently had an experience that tested my commitment to my own daily private victory. That morning, my alarm sounded. Usually I get up and exercise, plan, get ready for the day. But I was up late the night before and I was so tired. And I thought to myself, I don't have time today to sharpen the saw. But as I was lying there, I could hear my father's voice in the back of my head saying, like he always said, "Sean, have you ever been too busy driving to take time to get gas?" So I got up and I went down to my basement. I exercised. Immediately after exercising, I sat on my couch in the basement and I read inspiring literature for a few minutes. I then took time to plan my day. I started by looking at my mission statement. And then I reviewed each of my roles and the key goals and things I wanted to accomplish for each role. I got really clear on the few things I had to get done that day. It gave me perspective. As I continued planning, I also realized that I needed to apologize to my wife for something I'd said the night before. So I finished my planning and I went back upstairs. The whole routine only took about 45 minutes. After getting ready for the day, I went to my wife and I apologized. It turned out I really needed to. And she let me know that. However, it made a huge difference in how we both felt as we started the day. And as I walked out the door for work, I felt refreshed. My most important relationships were in order, and I had a very clear view of the day ahead. As it turned out, my private victory that morning helped me in so many ways throughout the day. I had to make a number of very pivotal decisions that day, and I felt this great sense of wisdom and judgment to help me. But it could have gone the other way. I could have stayed in bed and rushed through the morning and missed the opportunity to invest in my own capability to live that day well. I highly recommend the simple practice of sharpening the saw by spending time every day having your own daily private victory. Find a routine and a time that works for you. It will affect every decision and every relationship. It will greatly improve the quality of every other hour of the day, including the depth and the restfulness of your sleep. And it will build the long-term physical, mental, and spiritual strength that we all need to handle these challenges in life. So commit now to winning your own daily private victory. Even when it's hard, even when you don't have time or don't feel like it, and even when you don't want to wake up, it will make all the difference.
So I'm just curious, what do you do to sharpen the saw? How do you renew yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? How do you do that? Social, emotionally, anyway. Body, mind, heart, and spirit. How do you do it? Hopefully you do something every single day. We call it daily private victory. Guys, well, there you have it. You've got all 7 habits. You learned 3 of them last week with Gary, and you just got the last 4 here with me tonight. Congratulations to you. Thanks for experiencing the learning. I wish everybody all the best, and I will go ahead and turn it back over to Hannah. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Lonnie. We appreciate your time, and I know I'm taking away a lot of great tools to apply in my own life. So I appreciate that. I know we all do. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Southwest Iowa Mental Health and Disability Services for the grant that provided the funding for Project Hope. So this is actually our last session of the entire project, and it's been really amazing to learn and see all the lives that are impacted by the project in general. So we're so thankful to have had a part in that. Again, anyone watching can view these videos anytime on our website, and we encourage you to do so. So thank you again, Lonnie, and I bid you all a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Good night.